So, Joe Kennedy, you have had an eventful few days. In fact, an eventful few years. Obviously, your Supreme Court case has been continued to be in the headlines. We're more than a year out from that landmark verdict allowing you to pray on the 50-yard line. You recently, last Friday, went back out on the field as an assistant coach. You have since decided to resign from that position. Can you tell us why?
I could come up with a whole bunch of reasons. It just seemed like the right time. We have some problems, health problems in my wife's family here in Florida, so that's one of the big deciding factors. Also, it seemed like the right thing to do. I knew the school really didn't want me there. They made it abundantly clear. So I think this is best for all, that I just end on a high note and kind of try to take that high road and just retire on my own terms instead of anybody else's.
Well, and you had a chance to go back. You went back on Friday. You prayed at the 50-yard line after the game. What was it like, despite all the other noise? Because I know there's a lot. You just mentioned a number of the things that have gone on. But what was it like to get a chance to exercise that right that you earned at the Supreme Court?
It was the most amazing feeling. I've had a lot of good days. I've had a lot of bad days, but that day was probably the most perfect day ever. My wife and I, we've been fighting this fight for 8 years, and just to get back onto the football field, I only asked for two things, and that was to be a coach and to be able to pray after a game. So both of those were accomplished on Friday night, and we kind of blew the doors off of a lot of people when we invited God right back into our schools, and we could do it legally. So that was just an awesome evening. I have no words except for thanks to God for everything.
Yeah, no. And yeah, I think the point here is that what you fought for was something that was pretty simple: to be able to pray after a game on the 50-yard line. The fact that it took 8 years to get there, I think is incredible on so many levels. You also have a number of other things that we're going to talk about in a moment here that are happening that are exciting for you. But how did the community react? Because obviously this has been an issue. You mentioned the school probably didn't want you there, the district, after they fought and fought and fought. But how did people react to you being able to go back there on Friday and pray?
Well, we didn't have a single protester, that's what most of my anxiety was about, that it would become distracting for the football team. But the community showed up, and I don't know, we had probably three times as many people as a normal football game. So the numbers weren't extremely huge. It was the right size. And the game was so good that I think everybody forgot about me and they were focused on the game, and they saw just a spectacular show of what our Bremerton Knights can do. So it was a great, awesome event for the community. I have no regrets whatsoever with it.
When you talk to people who are progressives or people who have different views about the First Amendment that I don't always understand myself, they'll act as though somehow your victory was taking away people's rights or impeding people's rights. When you hear people talk about this, or that it was just so horrible, this victory, how do you respond to that? Because it seems like your victory expands people's rights.
That's the greatest thing about America, is that we have the shortest memories. And I don't know what it was 50 years ago with the Lemon case, and we kicked God out of our public schools. Well, everybody assumed that that's what the law is, and that's the way things have always been. In the past 50 years, we just been under the assumption that you cannot have, prayer in school. You can't have any kind of religion in the public square. But that's absolutely 100% wrong. And that's part of the fight, was to get that corrected for all Americans. And people have more freedom now than they have in the past 50 years. So the people that don't understand and think that I did something wrong, they just need to take a history lesson, and they need to learn what it is. And also, free speech is something that's great in America, and I fought to defend that, and I will stand up for everybody's right, even if they don't agree with me and they're protesting me.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm covering a lot of stories around the world right now of things that are happening to different Christians. In Finland, there's a politician who has been on trial over sharing a Bible verse about sexuality. You have issues rising up in Mexico. All over the world, there are really religious freedom, religious liberty, and First Amendment, even though the First Amendment isn't everywhere, but free speech considerations and violations. And so the fact that in America we've seen a number of these cases go the right way to defending the First Amendment is notable. In your case is one of those big ones. But before we go, I wanted to just talk with you about a couple of other projects. You have a book coming out. It's called Average Joe. The Coach Joe Kennedy story comes out in October. And you also have a film coming out. Tell us a little bit more about these projects.
Well, the book was I think a really good idea for all of us on all sides, because most people just read a headline or they see a Facebook post or something and they make up their mind on what's right and wrong. Hopefully the book will explain my life. It goes back from, before I was born, being an unwanted pregnancy, all the way through today. And it really just shows me finding love for my country, for my wife, and for my God. And hopefully people will read it, understand more about me, and to make a more informed decision. And hopefully the ones that are believers, or ones that are on my side, they'll be able to be inspired by it. Because like you said, there is so much going on in the world, and there's so much bad news and negativity. This hopefully will show that if one guy like me could stand up and change the nation, imagine what we could do if we all stand up together and stand up for our rights. I know that we sit there constantly thinking that the president will save us, or the government will save us, or our local officials will save us, but that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be able to govern ourselves by the rights that God gave us to be Americans and to be humans. We all have the same rights. So that's what the whole idea of the book is. And the movie, somebody had a great idea of taking it on. They were inspired by it. So I just told them, go crazy, do whatever you got to do. I haven't totally been involved in that. I'm nervous and anxious about that at the same time, because it's based upon my life. So I hope they do it some justice.
And when do you think the film, because I know that's a little further out, when do you think the film will be before audiences?
Well, there's a big strike going on in Hollywood right now, and that's putting a little dampener on things. We did get the waivers for it, and they are hiring all the actors, the cast, and everything. They already scouted out locations and are starting to do the pre-shoots on everything. Looks like it will be out before next fall for next football season.
Well, before that, again, the book Average Joe comes out. It's in October. People could check that out. As always, Coach Kennedy, appreciate your time with us.
Thank you so much. You guys be blessed.